thank you guys for letting me video this. Let's do this. How about you take a second just to get grounded? Take a moment to capture your breath. Take a big breath in, big sigh out. So I think it's really important to start, especially the feedback lecture, with a little like being grounded and kind of taking in the class that you took, being present in this moment. I think it's really important that when we start practicing feedback as we go, that you ground yourself, center yourself. This is really important. I think feedback, giving and receiving, is one of the biggest assets to this teacher training and to Light Power Yoga. I think it's one of the greatest tools that you're going to use to learn. And I think it's like the secret sauce to the program. I think it's the secret sauce to producing the quality of teachers that we produce here at Lifetime. And so I really want you to be grounded and present in this moment so that you are open to receive kind of the guidelines and the structure that will give and receive feedback, because it's super important. So let me give you an idea. So have you ever wondered about the idea that whenever you see people come into your life, so maybe someone walks in the yoga door and you can tell just by their body language some of the things that they're probably dealing with, right? So maybe they walk in and shoulders are slumped, and you can tell that there's probably a lack of confidence. They don't project their voice very much, right? Or maybe they walk in and they just kind of have a swagger about them. You know, you kind of think to yourself like, oh wow, this guy's pretty confident, or this woman's pretty confident. They project their voice really well, right? We see that. We can see that in their body language or in the way they interact with us or other people. But notice that we don't have these eyes that pop out of our heads that turn around and look at ourselves. So automatically I know that I don't get the same perception about myself that I get about other people. Right or wrong, what I think about other people, it's still my perception, right? I could be totally wrong about these two people that walked in. One could be very confident, even though their body says something different, right? Um, but I can use my eyes to make an assessment. I don't have that same luxury for myself. My family loves to remind me that I'm a talker, right? And sometimes they have to say, okay, you've talked enough, right? And at first I used to be super offended by it. Then one day I thought, wait a minute, I get people in public that tell me that. I drive them batty, I talk so much. Maybe I can use this information and scale my talking down too much down a little bit, right? And so there was an opportunity for growth from that. And so it's I need you. I need the people who can see me. I need a relationship that I can trust, that these people are going to turn around, and it doesn't have to be in love. It may just be because they're sick of hearing me speak. They just need a break. But here, right, that they need me to take it down a notch. And then when I do, it shows them that I was listening, and there's some growth in that relationship, right? So it becomes depth. It's important that we understand that just because we think we said something or did something one way, that it may not be perceived by everybody just like that, right? And so you and I both need or other people to give us information and feedback about how we present ourselves into the world, especially if we're going to be teachers, right? You don't want to be a teacher that completely doesn't take feedback, because you might become the worst teacher ever because you're not listening to the things that people love about you, and you're not listening to the places where they think you can grow. As an example, I had a teacher once who just, man, great teachers, but you could never hear them in class. And so I finally stopped going because I could never hear what they were saying. No matter how often someone told that person to speak up, they were not going to speak up. It was just who they were, right? So others' feedback is how we grow. It exposes our strength, and it exposes our weaknesses, and it deepens our connections to each other. And so again, I really believe that it's like the secret sauce that we have in our program, and it's something we're sharing with you as yoga teachers, and we're going to give you some structure, because it's no fun when your family just out of the blue decides they've had enough and they say, oh my God, stop talking, right? And like, whoa, what was that? But you start to open up these healthy boundaries, and you're like, hey, the next time I'm like that, could you like call me over to the side or give me the safe word like banana, where I go, ooh, I'm talking too much, right? And so we're going to give you those guidelines so that the feedback is better received and better given, right? So let's start with giving feedback. When we're giving feedback, you want to be grounded. You want to start with an affirmation. Tell the teacher or the person the things that you think they did well. A couple of things that you think we did well. We'll start with 2, right? And when you're done with the affirmations, then you can give them 2 opportunities for growth. We don't call them failures or you did it wrong kind of things. We're really starting to talk about what they could do that might change the way their class was, right? Since we're speaking about teaching. We want it to be important. Want it to be relevant. So maybe you have 5 or 6 things that they have opportunities for growth. Maybe, one was their music, and then one was just like, oh my gosh, there was nothing about son A that worked. Try to give the most important feedback, the most relevant. Maybe the music we can work on at another time, but give the most important and the most relevant feedback, whether it's in your affirmation or in your opportunity for growth. Be specific. It's important that you don't say things like, oh my gosh, you were really great, right? Great how? How was I great? Or, ooh, that really didn't work for me. Okay, what didn't work for you? You were really great in holding energy for the class. You were really great in your projection of voice. Um, Sun C stepping through to Warrior 1 in the placement of your sequence didn't work for me. You cued the wrong breath to the wrong movement, those type things. The other is really important, and this one's really important, is to stretch yourself. It can be tough, especially when you're speaking to a teacher who has been teaching a few more years than you have. It can be tough to give them feedback, but don't cheat those teachers, right? They can't see themselves. Their eyes did not finally, because they've taught longer than you, jump out of their head and turn around and see themselves. They still need your eyes, your perceptions, to see where they have done well and where they could possibly grow. That's giving feedback. When you're receiving feedback, it's important that you ground yourself again, that you're present. And stay open. It's not so much about what's right and what's wrong. Stay open to how you're perceived, right? That's what we're wanting to know. So my family is right. I'm a talker. But there are certain environments that I have to talk in. And so I need to understand from them how they perceive me. When should I talk? When should I let other people talk? When should I let that specific person talk? And when should I just be quiet, right? And the other is to remember that this is about building connection and relationship. When you're receiving feedback, what you're receiving is the information on how the other person would better receive you if you made a few little tweaks about the way you taught class, or you presented yourself, or you came to them. My baby sister loves for me to talk. She thinks it's so cool because she doesn't talk a whole lot, and we have so much fun when I'm the one doing all the talking. My middle sister could have me never speak another word because she needs to talk. She doesn't talk much, but she wants to be heard. And so I have to open up myself to those things, right? And so when another teacher is giving you feedback, I want you to stay open and don't think so much about right or wrong, and think more about your connection with that person who's giving you that information. And ask yourself, how can I communicate with this person better, right? So, and I have had this happen. I've had someone say, you never cued the breath. Oh my gosh. Actually, in my last part of Sun C, pretty much sometimes that's all I cue is breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale. And I forget my crumbing, right? And so I'm thinking, wow, how did this person not hear that? But they didn't. And so the point is, how can I better project the information to that person that they need when they're in my class, right? Because there might be other people in the class that didn't hear that. And so they're just offering me information that I can use to grow. It's very important that you stay silent, that you don't feel like you have to defend yourself. Growth doesn't happen by defending, right? Sometimes you just stay present, focus on your breath, and listen. You don't have to say, but I did teach the breath. Just be empathetic, be listening, sit with that thought. And the other thing is, sometimes you'll get feedback from somebody that says, the music that you used in Sun C did not work for me. And then maybe 2 weeks later, that same person says, that music that you used in Sun C, oh my God, it was perfect, right? There's no absolutes in these things. And so, especially when it's subjective, remember you want to make sure that your feedback, whether you're giving or receiving, is objective or subjective. Objective means it's set in stone. So if someone saw a flow guided class heated on the schedule, and they come in and the class never gets above 76 degrees, and they say to you, it never got hot in the class, that's the opportunity for your growth. that's objective. Maybe someone says to you, you know, again, back to the music didn't work for me. But someone else says they loved the music, right? Understand that not only are you trying to give objective feedback, you're also trying to, or you also need to understand that sometimes it can be right for the moment or wrong for that moment, the same exact thing. The biggest takeaway for feedback, whether you're receiving or giving, is to stay open and present. See what comes up for you when you're receiving. I know for me, not so much anymore after practicing, does not so much anger, because I'm not an angry person, but this like frustration comes up, like seriously, I know I said that, would come up. And then I ask myself, like, why do I feel like I need to defend myself? What if I just trusted in the fact that that might be their perception at that moment? I'm going to be aware of it, but I'm not going to respond the same way I've responded in the past. I'm going to grow even in receiving. It's no different than what we're doing on our mat, right? So we come into yoga to do the yoga, and we burn away those things that frustrate us. So maybe chair just frustrates the hell out of us. And we get in there and we sit with that and we burn through it. And when we leave class, the frustration's gone. Guess what? Now we have more room for other emotions, like positive even, compassion, happiness, joy, all of those things. So start to see what comes up for you when you're receiving feedback. Does fear come up for you? Does anger come up for you? Does frustration come up for you? Because I'm telling you, if you'll embrace this culture of feedback, it is absolutely the special sauce. If there's anything that I feel like is one of the biggest assets to this teacher training and to Life Power Yoga, it's the feedback, the giving and the receiving. And so I want you to pour yourself wholeheartedly into this. Make sure that when you're giving feedback, that you're starting with an affirmation, that you're giving opportunity for growth, that you're making sure that it's important and that it's relevant, that you're specific. Make sure that you're giving things that are objective and maybe peppering in that same subjective thoughts and concepts, and that you're really stretching yourself so that you're giving fully and they get fully, right? When you're receiving feedback, stay open, stay present. Remember that this is mainly about building relationships and connections, and that you need to be silent and stay with the breath. You can ask a few questions here and there, but then also get used to the fact that you might hear conflicting information, but use all of it to grow. This is what's going to set you apart in your teaching. And then more than likely, like it has for me, not only will you come to crave it and need it in your teaching, but maybe in all of your relationships. So that's the guidelines for our feedback sessions. Take a few minutes and we'll come back. I'll turn the camera off, come back, and we'll get into the rest of our lesson for tonight.